Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see the room full this evening. We appreciate you coming. Could we have a moment of silence, please? Thank you. And now we'll stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kim Harrison Edwards.
Here.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Here.
Councilman Randy Bowen. Councilwoman Debbie Johnson.
She'll be late.
Councilman Herb Curtis.
Here.
City Manager Nate Stansberry.
Present.
City Attorney Brian Bailey.
He's here in the building somewhere.
Finance Director Susie Johnston. Here. Intern Chief Mike Posey.
Here.
Chief Jimmy Settle.
Here.
Street Commissioner Mike Starrett.
That's for you, Judy.
Building and Zoning Enforcement Officer Marty Lewis.
Here.
Sanitary Director D. Evans.
Okay, you have the minutes in your packet of the regular and special sessions dated October 3rd and October 23rd. If you've had a chance to look over those and there are no additions or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve as distributed.
I'll move to approve.
We didn't even get to look at.
I did. I looked at him. I did my homework, Herb.
Okay,
We'll see.
Is
I'll-
there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to the visitors section.
Oh, yeah, visitors.
Oh, okay, well, it's. Okay, we'll move ahead to presentations. And first off, we have Rhett Dusenberry from Congressman Mooney's office, and he would like to make an award.
Thank you, Mayor Edwards, city council, staff, all the folks in the public, especially the students. Nice to see you. My name's Rhett Dusenberry, and I represent Congressman Alex Mooney, Congressman of the Second Congressional District. And first of all, he wanted to pass his congratulations on to acquiring your new police vehicles. And also, as always, is always very willing and able to support any grant applications with a letter of support. And also, excuse me, he asked me to read a letter to our retiring police chief.
You want him to come up? Do we want him to
Yeah.
come up?
Yes.
You have to excuse me, I just turned 60, and that's one of the things with old age, wisdom and eyes. So, yeah, you have a report to give, don't you? Yeah, I know.
Reports in the packet, right?
Right. He reports to someone else. Alrighty. On behalf of Congressman Mooney, his letter to the retiring chief, reads, "Dear friends, please accept my sincere apology and regrets for not being able to be with you today as you recognize Weston's retiring police chief, Josh Thomas. I send my heartfelt gratitude and respect to Chief Thomas for his courage and bravery throughout his career. Some say the definition of courage is ordinary people doing extraordinary things. In a split second, someone may be forced to make the decision of self-preservation versus helping someone else in a perilous situation. This choice is one that Chief Thomas and all first responders pledge voluntarily to our society when they take their oath. The unfortunate fact is that sometimes in the course of their duty, evil exacts a cost in their quest to protect and serve. but it is officers like Chief Thomas who show unwavering commitment to performing the mission. This community owes a tremendous debt to you, Chief Thomas, for all of your years of service and for your willingness to place someone else's life before your own. The direction of your career from patrolman to chief is a sign of your good character and inner fabric, which we should all attempt to replicate in our own lives. Your career will no doubt inspire others as well to live a life of service and to see your fellow community members as worthy of the mission. Again, thank you for the opportunity to extend my congratulations to Weston's retiring police chief Thomas for more than 20 years of service. It's an honor to have such a great man as one of my constituents. I extend my best wishes for your retirement and your endeavors in the future. It's an honor to serve you all. Sincerely, Alex X. Mooney, Member of Congress, Second Congressional District of West Virginia. Congratulations and thank you for your service. Or we can do pictures later on. Oh, okay. Did you want to- You're supposed to place this.
I know, I am placing.
There.
You have to see.
Maybe we do have an opportunity to pay their bond.
Yeah.
Should I jump up right now?
You still sound visiting that. I'm tired. Come on.
Smile like you're retired.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. And don't go away.
And yeah. Stay right here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. Appreciate it.
Have a second letter, right?
No, ma'am, I don't. Sorry.
Okay.
Again, our congratulations to former Chief Josh Thomas. We thank you for putting up with us during our term. And I have to say, I've never come to you without you've given me a professional and legal information. And for that, you're greatly appreciated. You could always count on you for the right thing. And we also have a plaque to present to you for your service. In recognition of outstanding service, Josh Thomas, Chief of Police, with great appreciation of your many years of dedication and commitment. Thank you for going above and beyond, serving and protecting the citizens of Weston, West Virginia. You will fix the records of all of them? I think so.
Yeah. there it is.
Box me in.
You two move down. Where are you going, Debbie? I don't know.
Let's see, get in.
You always tell me where to go.
I'm gonna say.
Debbie, you stay. Josh, you Debbie, you stay. All right, squeeze in.
This is not the road between.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Good luck to you too.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
If it makes anybody feel better, I'll thank you for the entire 2 days. It makes you feel any better.
That does make us feel better.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
You're done.
I would love to stay, but I got a lot to do.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Maybe you all prepare.
And next, we have a wonderful group of students in our gallery, and I'm asking council to accept the proclamation that I have on hand to celebrate your victory. You've made us all very proud. And the proclamation reads, whereas the city of Weston is proud to recognize the achievements of its youth who, by focusing to accomplish their goals with endurance and determination, promote positive character to their peers. And whereas, under the coaching direction of Katie Nichols, the Lewis County High School cheerleaders prevailed and have won the Class AA Region 2 cheerleading competition on Saturday, November 5th, 2022. And whereas the team and coaching staff have achieved success for their school, their families, their community, and themselves by combining team effort as well as an excellent academic record. Now therefore, I, Kim Harrison Edwards, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Weston, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 5th, 2022, to be Lewis County Cheer Day. I'll entertain a motion from council to accept the proclamation.
Mayor, I move to accept the proclamation for Lewis County High School cheerleaders, Class AA, Region 2 champions.
Second. It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Would any of council like to say a few words to the cheerleaders?
I will. Then you guys see me every day, and some of you have the pleasure of having me for your class. I am honored and privileged to be able to be a part of Lewis County High School and to see you guys representing our school with such high caliber and hard work. And it just shows that hard work pays off. Congratulations. Kindness and respect.
Doesn't just happen. My microphone just went off.
I did that.
Thank you. This doesn't just happen, this level of success without dedication, commitment, and a lot of hard work. We certainly are very proud of you, and we feel very honored to have you in our community. Thank you.
Huh?
This is the best part of our jobs.
Listening to me. Is it my turn?
No.
Oh. I don't get to speak. I just wanted to say it's a huge accomplishment and good luck in the future and hopefully you guys go on to win it all.
Come up. You want to? Becca will figure out the placement of
Yeah.
this.
Another picture.
Oh, dang, I'm
Where do we go? You want them to go out?
All of us. You want us up here with Katie?
I would take it on.
You got to go up there.
I'm wrong.
Oh.
Got a job now.
See you somewhere.
Good job. Yes. Randy.
You never know.
All right. All right, look this way, smile, one more. All right. Okay, got 'em all. Okay, all right, I think you're. When they're done, you're good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Katie, here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Bye, my love.
Thank you.
Come on, girls, enjoy your day off tomorrow. And Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have Amanda Workman Scott, Director of Community Engagement of West Virginia Community Hub.
Hi, thanks.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us tonight. So I'm Amanda Workman Scott with the West Virginia Community Development Hub. Some of you are familiar faces. We're here to just officially announce the USDA RCDI funding that we received for our next round of HubCap, which is our Communities of Achievement program. I believe Katie Loudon was here. Time's gotten away from me. I think it was over the summer. Maybe. I don't know. She was here at some point talking with you all about HubCap. We received the grant, so that's exciting. Olivia is going to be the coach for the town of Weston. So she's just going to talk a little bit about next steps and what that's going to look like. But we're just really excited to continue to work here. We've been working in Lewis County since 2019 through the Blueprint Communities program. That doesn't end until June 2023. So you guys have a lot of things that are overlapping, and I think it's a really exciting time here. So Olivia, if you want to talk a little bit.
Thanks, Amanda, and thank you, Mayor, council members, and staff for having us. I'm really excited to get involved with the city of Weston. I think it's an exciting time, like Amanda mentioned, to have these overlapping projects of being a Blueprint community, moving into HubCap. And so really excited to re-engage some folks that have already worked with the Hub and to build new partnerships and new relationships. So the HubCap program, I think most of you should have this document with the timeline there. It's a 3-year project. We'll be working with 5 communities. Weston is one of the 5, and we'll be starting in early spring of next year with a kickoff where we're going to hope to get some really tremendous community engagement, get a lot of folks involved. And from there, we're going to work on team building, bringing some new folks into the fold, re-engaging folks that we've worked with in the past, and building leadership teams. Throughout the whole program, you're going to have opportunities for technical assistance funding. There'll be $18,500 of technical assistance funding. That does require a $2,500 match, but we'll be coaching you all on what kind of projects that might go to. It might be one big project, it might be a couple smaller projects. We'll also have the opportunity to work on placemaking. So there is the opportunity for additional funding for placemaking projects. And we'll be working on bringing this community together with the other 4 communities in the program at group sessions. So there'll be 6 group sessions throughout the program. And then I will personally be leading community coaching sessions just with the town of Weston. And then we'll come together at those group sessions with the other communities. I'm really excited to be working with you all and hope to meet a lot of new folks. There's going to be a lot of fun opportunities. We're going to be working with the local EDA as well as some folks to help us hit the overall goals of the program, which are going to be around COVID-19 relief, climate change mitigation, and a lot of business development and redevelopment, which is going to be really exciting for the community. So excited to work with you all and meet some new folks, and looking forward to coming back to Weston many times over. Does anyone have questions? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, Advantage Technology.
Okay, this is kind of typically out of our order. We're moving a business item up in the presentations. So Advantage Technologies and Patrick, say your last name, Patrick, I'm gonna butcher it. Marazi is here to talk and answer any questions about the camera proposal that we'd received and reviewed. At this point, I'm ready to make that recommendation to award the cameras, but through the discussions of how we're going to implement the system, it became very apparent that we need power and internet to each one of these sites. And so Seth Hoffman with Raven Rock Networks, who currently runs the IT and networks for our city, is here as well. And they're here not necessarily to tell us anything, but to answer any questions off of what I'm proposing. And so at this juncture, I think our way forward is, if we're going to implement this camera system, we need to have a private network that we develop through Raven Rock Networks, and they've provided us a quote that was in your packet for 47,000, I think, or something of that nature, ballpark. And this will be things that will probably change a little bit as we get into this. You know, they tried to get as specific as possible with certain hardware and things like that, mounting brackets, things of that nature. So, you know, we may get out there and not need some of this stuff, or we may need additional equipment, but these are the main components. So at this point, I'm making the recommendation, if we're looking to move forward with the camera project, to award the camera project or the camera portion to Advantage Technologies, and then also award the network portion to Seth and Raven Rock to implement that in conjunction with the camera project. And I'll answer any questions you guys have on that. Correct. Yeah. The Verkada system. Correct. And so we've provided a list to you all of all the different locations. Some are going to be pretty easy. You know, we'll probably do a phased approach as we implement these. So the ones at City Hall, because we have power and network connections already, those will be implemented first. And then we'll work on the other intersections as, you know, as time and hardware and all that stuff develops.
Is that an updated list of locations? Because some members wanted to scrap a few of the locations.
Well, we weren't given a budget for it. And so I think at this point, my proposal is, let's just buy the hardware. And if we decide we want another location with the camera, we can move it from the location to another. You know, with the network system that we're proposing, we're just looking for some basic power requirements, and then we will connect the network through a WISP network wirelessly, so we won't have to run poles and things of that nature necessarily. So I think my proposal is to buy that camera from, I think, Wayland Park, right? That was the one we were wanting to scratch, or Lively. Okay.
Recently an incident though at Wayland Park.
And that was another one we talked about. Like, Wayland Park isn't technically a city park. We haven't reached
Right.
out to the owners of the park to even solicit their interest in the camera, but it's something that we can use either there if they're interested, try to come to an agreement. But if it doesn't work out, we can move that camera as well to another location.
Right. Pole Creek Park.
Yeah.
Definitely.
For sure.
The caretakers of that park definitely would like cameras. And another question I had, is this something that perhaps we could move it to the schools when school's in session? And that would be an option if we,
Possibly. I mean, I think the
wanted.
middle school has their own camera system from what I can see, just looking at it on the outside. But it's maybe that intersection, if we could talk to the school
Right.
system and see how their cameras cover that intersection. If there's not
Sure.
real good coverage, perhaps we can do it there. Perhaps we
Okay.
move it up, what is that, Court and Third? They're from CVS, maybe we put the camera in that intersection.
Sure.
To kind of provide that extra coverage. That's worthwhile.
So what we have here, and what for approval tonight is the camera system and the
The
network, correct?
Correct.
And that is total on the second page, correct?
Where is the Did the network proposal make it in there?
Is this it?
No, that's the camera side.
Okay.
I might not have. Seth, do you have a copy of your proposal with you?
Very basic.
All right.
I do have a couple
Sure.
questions pertaining to the internet service being provided. What is our security here? Hacking, getting into it? What do we have precautionary since this is
Seth, you want to speak to that a little bit?
a
That, let me introduce myself. My name's Seth Hoffman. I'm with Raven Rock Networks. I'm the operations director for Raven Rock Networks. We've been handling the city's internal IT for over a decade now. It's been quite a long time. To specifically speak to your question, what we do is when we build out these networks, and that's one of the reasons that we're actually talking about a privatized network, is because if you think about it this way, the network is obviously the means by which all these things are going to communicate back to the central hub or wherever they need to talk to. Okay. If we do it, if you attempt to do it across a public internet provider, i.e., let's say we go with a Shentel, or we go with a situation where the Verkada cameras can actually be connected to a cell signal. Okay. If you go with either one of those solutions, you have the potential, a much greater potential for security intrusion, because there again, you're going across a public service connection in order to obviously get your data to the final endpoint. What we are proposing in part of this proposal is for the privatized wireless network to be built. Now, we do have experience doing this. We actually built one for the city of Buchanan probably 15 years ago. Okay. And part of the reason that they did it at that point in time was because, quite honestly, it was state of the art, cutting edge. And they had come across some need for having a more privatized and more secure and stable network environment than using internet connections at all their different locations. This network would be as secure as can reasonably be expected from any sort of privatized network. Okay. Now, what that means is basically everything would be in-house. So the city would have control end to end over all portions of the network. It is 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, continuously monitored, both by automated systems as well as by staffers. Okay. However, that does not require any additional boon on the city necessarily, or any additional, doesn't put any additional pressure on the city, simply because, again, all of these things are designed in such a way that they can be automated and remotely managed, remotely controlled. So we do have the ability to monitor and see if there are intrusion attempts. We can actually dynamically block those intrusion attempts over time. But essentially, that's what we're looking to do, is we're looking to bring this entire network into a privatized umbrella that you would, as the city, would have end-to-end control over. All right. And that would allow you guys to not only secure what you want to secure now, but also these networks are very, very scalable. So into the future, if you think of it this way, you're building the foundation upon which camera systems, speaker and audio systems, emergency management systems, enhanced communication among departments. Even let's say that there's an emergency response situation, say FEMA has to come in and says, oh my gosh, we have to get internet connection for whatever, i.e., let's say what happened down in Florida just recently with the hurricane. The very first thing that FEMA wanted operational in those areas was things like communication networks. Okay. The city could provide these networks to these individuals on an as needed basis. All right. And literally turn them on and off. For example, let's say you were having a major event at one of these parks and you wanted to bring in and actually offer public internet service. You could do that just for the duration of that event and then shut that internet service back off at that park location. So it's really a way to not only entice and attract business into the community, but it's also a way to better conduct business and more effectively and efficiently conduct business within the community and as the city.
In our network, that when we say private network, a location at, say, Polk Creek Park is going to beam its signal back to City Hall through towers and things of that nature. And so its connection to the World Wide Web is going to be through our connection at City Hall. Correct. So all these points won't have a connection directly to the internet. They'll be coming through our current firewall and be like any other connected device we have in our current network. So all the Wi-Fi points that we have, our computer connections that we have, it'll be just essentially another node inside that network that's connected to the World Wide Web through our current firewall.
Think of it as basically blowing geography completely out the door. That's essentially what you're doing. You're blowing out geographical separations by having this wireless umbrella that is all connected to the private network. Again, as you know, Nate alluded to earlier, if you guys would choose to move a camera from a place like Wayland Park, okay, to another location, and that could be anywhere downtown on Main Street, anywhere realistically that we had coverage, all right, through the city's network, you could simply take that camera down, pop it up at the new location, give it power, and as soon as it gets power, it's going to start talking. It's going to be on the same protocols, the same policies, the same procedures, and the same security configurations that the city already has established.
So I can play music, Christmas music downtown.
You would-
And then I can have music playing at Pole Creek Park for an event there. I could
What this does,
anywhere.
yes, ma'am, what this does is this actually provides the city the opportunity to really, again, it takes a lot of those geographic restrictions as far as how are we going to physically get the data from point A to
Yeah.
point B, regardless of whether it's music, whether it's cameras, whether it's a laptop. It takes those restrictions and just blows them out. They're just gone at this point. All you need really at that point is you need what is called a customer premise dish, a very small antenna. All right, actually at the physical site. So you need an antenna at Polk Park. You'd need an antenna at, say, you know, if you want to do it at Wayland Park, you need an antenna there. And those are things that we've already accounted for within that proposal. We've actually even spec'd out some additional equipment, again, just in case down the road you say, well, I know we already have a camera at Second and Center, but now we want to throw one up, you know, 3 blocks down the road. Okay, we already have that equipment available. We can literally run, grab it, put it up, put the camera up. And again, that communication will be already pre-established. You're really building, again, you're really building a foundation on which you can then do multiple different elements and items from that point. That's kind of the idea and the thought process of doing this.
Okay.
Any other questions, Debbie?
What would be yearly service fee once we initially put this, what, $48,000 in?
Mhm.
How much is it gonna cost us each year to maintain the connection? What's gonna be the fee on that?
Okay, I will put it to you this way. We have again, we've been running this network for the city of Buchanan for quite some time. They average about what we call incident per year. Okay. Because, and please understand that we've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this a long time. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I'm the best at it, but I'm good at what I do. We have this planned out very, very well. And so the actual annual recurring costs are very, very minimal. And what I mean when I say very, very minimal is realistically, it's troubleshooting if things don't work correctly, or if you have an outstanding incident. For example, we have had incidents in the past where there was a lightning strike, let's say, and maybe actually hit a dish. Now, these things are not lightning attractors. All right. They are, again, very, very small. They do not necessarily draw lightning. So don't think of it that way. But obviously, those types of events can occur. Okay. In that type of instance, that again is where we would go grab a piece of spare equipment, take it out to the site, put it up, put it in. The rough ongoing costs, I can say that from what we've experienced just from the city of Buchanan and my experience with that. And I actually was also the operations director for a private internet service provider as well. So the private internet service provider, let me jump back. That on average, we probably put about $2,000 to $3,000 a month into the private side of it. Now that is, or the internet provider that we had. The city of Buchanan is a different animal, because understand when you're trying to serve internet customers, the general public, you're serving, you know, potentially thousands of different scenarios. When it's a privatized network, i.e. the city network, you can set what the protocols are going to be from the top down. And so all those devices have to fall into line. So there's a lot less variables to deal with. Bottom line is you can look at spending probably around $200 to $300 a month just in general maintenance and upkeep. But quite honestly, that is basically about it, with the exception of freak incident, i.e. a lightning strike, something like that occurring. In the 5 years that we actually ran the non-city internet side, we had a sum total of 2 lightning incidents in 5 years, both of which were complete insurance coverages, obviously. And so there again, It's just something where it's just our time involved in getting up the pole and getting things replaced.
Let me speak to it a little bit. There's an annual fee for our license for one piece of hardware. That's $3,000. And we're going to try to get rid of so if we build this network, we're going to beam internet to the street department. We'll have to upgrade our internet connection in our building a little bit and increase our package, but we'll also be able to cut our internet service out at the street department and possibly the fire department if they're willing to be under our billing scheme, and cover that cost in-house. So then you've got a $3,000 ongoing cost, and then your power, to these sites, whatever that ends up being, which is pretty minimal. I think we looked it up, it was 300 watts was what the devices drew. So
Our largest tower, which is about 5 times the size of any site that you guys have. The entire network as spec right now probably is not the equivalent of our largest tower that we had. Our largest tower drew about $37 a month in electricity. That was it. They really are. Everything's ultra low voltage to the point that we even jokingly tell people, I tell trainees, and I jokingly say, plug it into the network, plug the actual device in the network, and put the other end on your tongue if you're concerned that you're going to be hurt, because it's ultra low voltage. It's actually less than a Duracell battery.
the only other way we can deploy these cameras is to have a hardwired Shintel connection, which what a Shintel connection costs roughly. And then either that or have some kind of cell phone connection, which from my understanding, Patrick, right, the latency increases on our camera feed. So it won't, with the plus you have the ongoing cell phone data plan. You're going to need unlimited data, that kind of thing as you deploy that. So I think this is cost effective, and it gives us something we can use outside of just having these single points that we've developed over time.
Truth be told, this is a larger upfront expense. Okay. But the bottom line is that it more than it pays for itself with the additional enhancements that you have to security, and also the additional flexibility and scalability that you have moving forward. Because again, you're not locked to any given sites. Let's say the street department building maybe moves in a year and a half and physically relocates somewhere else. Well, all we have to do is physically move the dish and repoint it. That's it. That's all there is to it. So again, it's not like it takes a lot of the overhead and ongoing costs and ongoing potential problems kind of out of the loop, because you bring all of this in-house and it's all under one, the city's organizational control.
Is there a resale market for this hardware?
Oh, yes.
So
yeah.
I think if for some reason we can't get it to work, we do have the ability to sell the hardware.
It'll work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dinosaur.
Right.
What's the big cost of that? I'm looking
I
at the
will.
future
Yes.
cost on possible future councils.
Yep. What we did in the city of Buchanan, again, about 15 years ago, they spent a great deal more than this. As you know, technology, as it progresses, generally speaking, gets smaller, faster, but in the ISP arena, it actually has gotten less expensive, which is, I know, a bit unusual. But for example, the same basic equipment that we have proposed on this sheet. Okay. For example, the first line item there is about $1,000 per radio. That same equipment actually 8 months ago was almost $4,000 per piece of equipment per radio. Same capabilities, same processes, that sort of thing. The other thing that I need to make you all aware of is we are actually hitting a point in our society, and this is just IT as a general rule, where we are starting to push the physical limits of both what silicon can do, which is of course what all computer chips are based on, all right, as well as what the physical world can possibly do. For example, like you're talking about things like 5G cell phone technology, that sort of thing. Okay. These are all starting to push the physical barriers of what is possible. You've noticed with like 5G cell phone technology, they're having to put up more physical towers because you can't broadcast it as far because of the nature of the physics of the radio frequencies. These things work in a very similar boat. Okay. What I mean by that is, while the technological curve has traditionally been, like this, very, very steep as far as how fast it improves, we are starting to finally see that to level off. I'm not going to say that in 10 years, these things won't be kind of dinosaurs, but at the same time, what I will say is that for the last 5 years, since we did the privatized version of the internet, in other words, we had our own ISP. We basically sold internet service. Since we did that, I have not seen any major technological leaps in the last 5 years. So I don't really believe, and quite honestly, I'm embedded enough now in the industry that I can kind of forecast out. I don't see anything on the horizon that is an absolute game changer. So I really think that you're looking at, this is going to be a reasonable situation. My best estimate at this point is for at least a decade. The other nice thing is that these things, because they aren't physical lines, they're very, very easy to replace. It becomes more of an item similar to, instead of say buying a new car, it's similar to renting a car, where, okay, this individual unit has become obsolete, take that one down, hang the replacement unit up. As Nate said, attempt to either resell the obsolete unit, or you can then put it back in case, let's say, one of the new units somewhere else has a failure. Now we can put the obsolete one back in. It may not run at maximum efficiency, but at the same time, at least it runs and functions.
And of the 48,000 that we're proposing for the network, 30,000 of it is the human side of it, the network configuration, the labor to hang these devices.
Right.
So really, we've only got 17,000 roughly of hardware. And like you said, it's a modular system in the sense that we can take one unit out of service and replace that if we need to upgrade or whatnot, and do that on a piece by piece basis where, if the cable wire becomes obsolete and we got to run all new fiber, that's a really intensive project. This isn't that. This is something you can upgrade on a station by station basis as requirements.
We're talking to citizens about the purchase of this
Mhm.
equipment and network. They wouldn't view it as critical infrastructure. Can you make the selling point for that?
Well, to the average citizen, I would say the best selling point for the average citizen would be in this particular phase of the project. And one thing I want to say is that this project has the potential to have multiple phases. Okay. Again, think of it like you're building a house. All right. This is your data foundation. All right. And so what I mean by that, to kind of expand that analogy a little bit, is let's say that you put something like this in place. Okay. That it works, that it's operational, it's functional, and you're happy with it. All right. At that point in time, it is very, very easy to step from here into potentially offering reduced rate public internet services to individual citizens if you should so choose. Okay. That is a very, very small step. Again, if you want to take that step. The other additional item that you could have is, the best way, in my opinion, is for emergency response. Disaster response, emergency response, just connectivity and safety and security of the citizens. Again, this allows you to basically put traffic cameras anywhere you need to. Let's even say you have an incident, and I know that this did not happen within city limits, but similar to the active shooter situation that was up on the highway, a few months ago. Were something like that, God forbid, to occur anywhere in downtown Weston or anything like that, okay, not only do you obviously have your police response, but you could even provide additional communication methods to these police officers, to first responders. All right. Beyond that, there again, you can tell the citizens that, and that may be a good argument to have a camera kind of in storage somewhere that's already pre-configured. All right. So that you can, let's say you want to get eyes onto something that you don't otherwise have eyes on, or if you're having a big event, a parade, that sort of thing, and you say, okay, I need to be able to see this particular location. You can just move that camera as long as you have this wireless umbrella, because the connections are already there. The data is already available at that site. So really, it's a question of, for the individual citizens, as far as the public, they are going to see the most benefit from this in the additional services and the security that the city can provide, and the way that it can simply, like the police department, the fire department, can possibly utilize these things to help provide those additional layers of security and ensure faster responses, more accurate responses, that sort of thing.
And we're building a backbone that we can then deploy additional sites. So like if a citizen wanted to see a camera go on a certain building, we've talked about how do we integrate private businesses into our network? Do we offer a package? And I'm just throwing stuff at the wall here. Don't hold me to it. Do you offer a package where you say, hey, I'd really like to have a camera, but I don't want the ongoing cost of one? Do we allow them to buy that hardware? Our Verkada system has a 10-year license that you buy up front. Do we allow them to buy that, tie that into our network, and then the city assumes that cost over the years where we, with the backbone of our network for a couple $100, if I understand right, Seth, we'll be able to deploy internet waypoint at that point,
Yep.
where that service is needed, and then get them onto the network. And that's the only ongoing cost outside that license that we'd have. And like you said, with emergency response, we saw in COVID where these hot spots popped up for people to be able to do their homework and things of that nature. We could deploy that with our city network and
We-
allow that service to happen as well.
Sorry, I didn't
No, you're fine.
interrupt you. You brought up the COVID thing with the educational. We actually, Raven Rock actually rapid deployed 5 educational sites in Buchanan, and actually the one that I'm the most proud of personally was we actually deployed one at Audra State Park, which I don't know how often council gets out to Audra State Park, but it's out there. There are no decent internet service connections at that location, or at least were not until we set up this privatized hotspot, basically for the, students from that area to be able to come and congregate and actually learn in an environment out there. We were very fortunate. A general store out there said, hey, we're willing to host kids in our back room. It's not a problem. The families out there all kind of know those people. They agreed. They thought it was great. And so we were actually able to pump them 150 meg internet connection literally within a matter of days, while, the rest of the country was still trying to figure out what was going on and how it was going to impact. And quite honestly, Upshur County hadn't even yet formalized their educational plans. We already had the hotspots available and said, hey, as soon as you guys get the plan together, the students are going to be able to connect and talk, because we have this umbrella blanket that already exists. All we got to do is attach to it.
I don't have a question. I have more of a comment. Thinking back during our ARPA discussions and with the community, cameras came up numerous times. The public wanted cameras, and I have had citizens ask me about the update and the status on that. And I think that this is a part of it. If we're wanting the camera system that we want and the capabilities that we want, I think this, rather than, and I think it would probably be more expensive to run wires everywhere. And also it would be very limiting. The fact that you've already done the city of Buchanan helps too. So you kind of
And
have an idea as to what municipalities need.
Yes, ma'am.
Elkins is talking about this, right?
Yep. Yeah, he's the camera guy. I'm just the network guy.
So my name's Patrick Marazzi. I'm the Regional Business Development Manager for Advantage Technology. I have probably spent the last year and a half, this is no joke, working with this camera solution with municipalities and county commissions covering this entire state. The city of Bridgeport, the town of Whitehall, the city of Clarksburg, city of Morgantown. The city of Morgantown's working right, like we just is considering doing exactly what you all are doing with adding your security cameras to a private network for a lot of different reasons. So I don't want you to think you guys are alone. And, I think, Seth's done a really good job of breaking down exactly how this is going to work. We do the same work. So I'm pretty familiar with the solution that he's put together for you guys, because we're doing the exact same thing for the city of Morgantown. We might be doing it a little bit different, but the concepts is exactly the same. So as far as some folks around you that are currently doing what you guys are doing, it's happening. The city of Bridgeport, they invested $250,000 in this project. They put these cameras on every piece of asset they've got. I think this speaks volumes. I think, ma'am, I think you seem to have spent some time researching this camera solution yourself. The city of Bridgeport built a $64 million rec center and already had cameras in place. And when they saw this solution, they took it out and put this in. They spent another, I don't know, it's probably $70,000 in cameras just to secure that building alone. So again, I think what you're doing here obviously is benefiting the community, like you said, most important. And I think, I can speak for myself, a little smaller community. I'm on council of the city of Stonewood, and we're always looking for ways to better the community. And I can think of what you guys are doing no better way. So I'm
Brid-
happy to
Bridgeport
provide-
runs their network off their fiber network, right? That they have
Yeah,
with CityNet.
They have
Yeah,
a
they've got a-
privatized fiber.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of course obviously entails having physical fiber at each of the camera locations.
Right.
Correct.
And then
which are very
Philippi,
cost prohibitive as well as labor intensive.
has their own internet. Did
They
did we confirm that? Yeah, they have their own network that they're running cameras and stuff off as well. So we're not really breaking new ground in the sense, just the technology we have is a little bit different than what others would have. And I think if we were to run fiber to one building, I think we'd spend more money on the fiber connection for one building than we're spending on the network we're trying to build.
You're looking at about $1.75 per foot per fiber,
Yeah.
per linear foot. So
So-
the cost obviously skyrockets very fast.
Okay, one other question
Sure.
for you, Nate. We've been discussing this possibility for quite a while, and I wanted to ask you to refresh our memories about the bid process for how we went about this.
Well, we advertised for the camera system, open public bid that was advertised in the paper. Now the network system, not necessarily, we didn't advertise for that. But Raven Rock has an ongoing relationship with us and it's our network. And so I see this work as an addition to their current arrangement with us performing network services because we'd be expanding our current network. So that's how I see us moving forward. And I think we've met those requirements to do as much.
You guys have a 24-hour service? If we have 2-3 cameras go down or wiring on 2 or 3 streets, do you have a 24-hour service? Because you're talking about emergencies, and if there was a shooting downtown at 1 o'clock in the morning and something happened that a part of the service went out, would you come immediately?
We would be notified, and yes, we will respond. We have what we have right now with the city of Buchanan, for example, is we actually have a specialized service contract and a guaranteed 2-hour response time.
Oh, good.
One thing, Herb, I mean, they're expensive. I'm going to tell you right now, if you have an emergency call out, there's a premium that we're paying for that. And so, and if we develop this, we'll have to go that route. And we'll make those calls about, is this an emergency or is this something that can wait till tomorrow morning when we're on regular time? But I think long-term, what I'd like to see us do is be able to develop some kind of revenue stream from this network that we could then invest in having an employee that could be our in-house expert to run this network and offer more services, whatever those may be down the line.
Right. I guess what I'm getting at is anytime a business or municipality makes an investment, we want some type of peace of mind as far as some type of warranty, some type of coverage, some type of services to where if something goes down, you come out. We need something to give us peace of mind that you're going to be biased and not charge us $10,000 for
We are absolutely not a fly by night. We're not here's your product and we'll walk out of the door. Nate can speak to that, I think, very, very well.
Very responsive.
The way that we do everything at Raven Rock, and I've worked with Advantage in the past and crossed paths with them in the past, and they have a similar mindset and similar business philosophy. We don't look at you all as a client. We look at you all as a partner. We are part of this network. We are part of the situation. And so we want it to be as successful as possible as well, because quite honestly, let's just lay the cards on the table. The truth is, if you're successful with it, we will be successful with it. That will balloon, that will blossom, that will continue. Even if it's not necessarily the city of Weston, we may have another city that then comes in and goes, man, you guys did such a great job in Weston and I've heard such good things. So it's in our best interest as well to make sure that those things are taken care of and that you are absolutely as happy as you possibly can be with the situation. Now, I do want to be clear too, and I want to set realistic expectations. If, for example, let's say a piece of equipment goes down that we don't necessarily have a backup piece of equipment ready on hand in stock, okay, that may be a situation where at that point in time, we have to make a judgment call and say, okay, we're going to use an alternate type of equipment that again, may not be as efficient or as effective, but still at least provides that basic level of communication.
How long have they been providing our services?
I can't even think of the name of the first city manager I started with. It was before Doge.
There's probably been many of them.
Yeah.
So it's been several years.
It's been many. I can tell you this, my son is 12 And I was working with the city for about 3 to 4 years before he was born.
That's what I
So
thought.
yes, ma'am, it's been quite a while.
And one of the reasons we wanted to involve Patrick and their firm is that they're much larger than Raven Rock. And so we want them to be a part of this deployment as well. So if something that, Seth wins the Powerball, because I don't think anybody won it last weekend, he wins the Powerball and he rides off into the sunset and sells Raven Rock, we'd have a backup firm that would be familiar with our system and be able to provide that support as well.
I also think it's important as far as the cameras go, just to piggyback, add some additional information for you, peace of mind for the cameras themselves. So they, as Nate said, come with a 10-year warranty. So if a camera malfunctions, breaks, whatever, they're next daying you a replacement. So that, one of the things that they stand by their products too. There's a reason that they're putting a 10-year warranty on it. It's because you're essentially buying a Cadillac camera system. It's one of the top of the lines out there. So they're going to stand behind it. And if something happens to it, we're going to and I've had in the year and a half, I think we've had one instance where we had to have a camera overnighted and it came the next day. And we went out and deployed it and got it back up. So
I can say in the 15 plus years we've been doing this for the city of Buchanan, and then also in Raven Rock offering it as an internet provider directly to end users. The only time, and I better knock on wood when I say this, the only time that we've ever had equipment fail to this point has been due to outside environmental factors, i.e. lightning, power loss.
I was going to ask that next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I won't say that obviously it's like anything else. It's built on an assembly line. Is it capable of failing? Absolutely, 100%. But at the same time, I do want you to be aware that they are very, very high reliability. And that is one of the things too, both in the camera arena and on the network side, because this is becoming such a paramount issue now in society with connected cities and Internet of Things and that sort of thing. All of this is getting to become, it's getting more and more critical attention from more and more critical engineering standpoint. And so we are seeing a drastic improvement in the quality of material that we receive to even build these things with. Again, the dishes, the costs have gone down, the capabilities have gone up, and I've been very, very happy.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So we pay a yearly fee for the service, right? Am I
For a piece of the
correct?
hardware, there's a licensing fee that goes with it.
I'm talking the Raven Rock. Okay, so we pay this now service to get internet hooked to the cameras. And then we pay a yearly fee to them to provide the service after this.
No.
Yeah.
No. What you're paying for, okay. Think of this again as an umbrella that will provide all the data to all the locations. Okay, all of that data is going to be fed back to City Hall, all right, and routed across a single internet connection to the public internet. All right, that single internet connection has to have what's called an enterprise grade firewall. An enterprise grade firewall is basically the traffic cop for the network. It tells what can come in, what can go out, that sort of thing, monitors all that activity. That enterprise grade firewall has a software license that goes with it. Because, for example, let's say I release a new virus to the wild, that enterprise grade firewall, that software company is going to actually create a mitigation routine for that specific virus. They update those definitions. They're called virus definitions. They update those 2 times a day, every single day of the year. And that is actually the software licensing that you're paying for, is to ensure that you're always at the bleeding edge, if you will, of that security protocol, specifically related to public sector and government environments.
Okay, what I'm saying is the 48,000 that we put out now, what is our cost after this? That's what I
If you
want
look
to
at
know.
that first page, you're going to have 3240. There's an annual fee.
That's
Uh,
the only set recurring.
Well, let me finish that. Then we'll have our internet service. So your Raven Rock statement or invoice. You're looking at the right one, it looks like, Debbie. So that
I'm looking
first,
for that 32.
so if you look at FW-UT-complete, the first thing under activity, and there's a bunch of
Okay.
bullet points at that bottom bullet point of that activity, there's an annual fee of 3240. See that there? And so that's the software, the firewall we're talking about. Yeah.
I was down here at the
Beyond-
bottom.
That's fine. That's fine. That's all right.
Beyond that,
The other bottom line, right?
there are no additional ongoing licensing fees for any of the other equipment on the cheap. There are no additional ongoing software fees. There are no additional ongoing warranty extension fees or anything like that. It is literally beyond that point. How many nodes do you want to add? How much equipment do you want to add? And or how much emergency troubleshooting needs to be done?
And we have our ongoing, every month we're going to be paying the internet bill. So in order to have internet to our building, we're going to have to pay that bill. And our cost that we currently pay will be increased. I think we said we're going to go for 300 megs upgrade a little bit, right? So we're a couple $100 a month. Our bill will go up.
So what would be a total on that? I'm just trying to get the long
Yeah,
term cost. I'm
sure.
sorry.
No, and I think you're looking at probably $4,000 to $5,000 roughly annual costs in running this network, which some of that will be, covered with our existing internet bill, but that's what we're looking at. And then any kind of network support we need from them. If something
See,
goes
that's what-
RE, then we've got,
So if there's a
yeah.
problem and he has to do a
Right.
service call, that's an additional fee on top of
Correct.
this $8,000 that
Correct.
we would be paying.
and there's a balance there, and I'm not sure where that balance is to be made. If we go the cell phone route, right, where we have a cell phone hotspot, if it doesn't work, we're going to call a cell phone company. They're going to get to us when they get to us, and the answer may be, we've done everything on our end that we can. You guys figure it out. And then at that point, we're probably calling a network person to come in and try to figure it out for us. And so I don't know what the best solution
I
is.
just- I
Yeah,
just wanna
no,
see
but no, perfect
what
questions.
the
Yeah.
monthly cost is down
Yep.
the road.
Any additional questions?
About an additional comment. Yeah. I appreciate all the work that you all put into this endeavor. It seems to be an impressive situation, but I find it, in my mind, history will prove that this is a residual financial liability to the city. It could be better served with increased patrols, increased pavement, increased ditch maintenance, things of that nature that are one-time costs and for the betterment of the community. I'm not for big brother type of governing. This is all bad for you guys. I'm sorry. And most of all, my biggest fear is the Jeffrey Epstein moment when things aren't working when they need to be. That happens, but that's my take on it. But I mean, there's a place for it, but I'm not sure the growing situation we're in. I don't feel like it's what we need, but at some point it could be in my mind, but that's just one mind. You got 4 others here, but I appreciate all your hard work and it does sound very impressive.
Comments, questions?
Financially, we're good with this. Financial team.
I mean, I think we're year to year here, right, on what our budget priorities are. And I think everybody understands the pressure with inflation and everything of that nature. So we have to decide each year what our priorities are going to be for what we're funding. I think from our standpoint right now, we could dodge this. I mean, we could absorb this and make it work. So it's something gets cut, right, down the line. It's something you set your priorities based on what you have. And so I can't predict the future. I can't hold another council accountable. I think you've heard my speech on municipal fees. I think that we're way behind the times there. And if we're going to continue to do the works we're going to do, we're going to have to raise fees. And so, I mean, I think that's the responsibility of our governing team is to make those calls and try to find what our priorities are and make those tough decisions.
So you're looking for approval on, and once again, I go back to what the public wanted and we asked their opinion and they told us what they wanted and they were very clear on that. So what I'm seeing is this advantage is the Fricata cameras, correct?
Correct.
That's the one invoice.
Mhm.
And then the other one is for the service to
For the
install.
connectivity, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
right. And it's ARPA approved, correct?
From my understanding, yes.
And
I
we
mean, I
have
think this
ARPA
is,
funds.
yeah. That's my proposal is to take this from ARPA and use it to build this system.
What type of
Sure.
contract do we have? Is it a 1 year, a 3, 5 year contract as far as for the service? Say if we couldn't afford it next year within the budget, would it just be shut off until?
No, sir. This is actually again, because there are no, and that's why I can't really point to any recurring costs.
Sure.
Okay. Because it's not a situation where if I can't continue to afford it, it gets shut off.
Mhm.
It's a situation where once the house is built and the foundation is laid,
Mhm.
okay, if you choose to utilize it and you choose to continue to build on it, you can. It doesn't necessarily require any sort of ongoing licensing or any ongoing fees beyond the firewall fee that we discussed earlier,
Sure.
$3,200 some dollars.
So the worst is you wouldn't be protected.
The
if you
worst,
couldn't afford it.
the worst really is that the network would continue to operate, and as you said, you simply wouldn't be protected. And you could actually, I mean, honestly, you could even make judgment calls as to, okay, we absolutely have to have this node of the network operational, but not this one. It's going to cost $200 to get this node operational and $600 to get this one. Well,
Mhm.
let's, again, as Nate said, let's prioritize and do that.
Sure.
But I don't want you all to think that it's a situation where, there's a fee that if you don't pay it, it shuts off. No, this is something that, similar to purchasing a vehicle for the city, that once you have it,
Sure.
you can continue to drive it. You just may need to take it to the mechanic once in a while, which is where somebody like us would
gotcha.
get.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't also have to be us. That's another thing I want to be clear about. We do everything, when we build everything, we do everything because we are building it with you and as your partner. We're not building it as though, I'm not here to extract money from the organization.
Sure.
And so what we do is when we build it, we actually follow internationally accepted best practices and standards, okay, from start to finish, day one to the end. Beyond that, we actually turn all of that information, every single line of configuration code and everything is turned over to the city. It's the property of the city, just as the equipment is. So basically, let's say that, at some point down the road, maybe the city decides to go with a different engineering firm, different networking firm to come in and support this. You can literally hand them what we jokingly call the network Bible, hand that to them, and any other engineering firm worth their salt will be able to open it up, follow through, and pick up essentially where we left off.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say, you can tell me if I'm wrong, a bulk of this between the cameras and the service that Seth's providing, you probably got about 95% of it right here in front of you. The other 5% that he's talking about. So the bulk of this project is getting paid for up front.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's very, very little ongoing. And of course, it's like everything else. There is always some. Yeah. But at the same time, it is very, very minimal. As I said, the city of Buchanan, a couple $100 a month roughly is what they spend on maintaining their network.
Everything, I was just going to finish up with saying everything runs through technology. So you got to have it and you got to stay up to date with it. But I do believe in that part.
I do have one question for the city attorney. Do we have to put signage up that say, state that we have cameras?
Short answer, I don't know. A person can look up on the pole and see a camera there. And I mean, it wouldn't hurt, but I don't necessarily think that's required.
And again, I don't mean to step on anybody's toes. I've been down this road before and actually had this question asked before.
Oh, yeah.
West Virginia is a single party state. Correct. So what that means is as long as one party that is privy to the interaction knows that the recording is happening, the other party does not have to be notified. So because the city is providing the cameras and the city is putting up the cameras, the city can use the cameras for whatever they see fit without notifying any outside parties, period.
And if I were you, I would not put
Okay, I just wondered.
Yeah.
Now, again, Mr. Bailey may have.
Sure, no, you're.
Mr. Bailey may know, I'm not a lawyer.
Take note of that, Mr.
But-
Bailey. He's not going to charge you for that.
I'm certainly not a lawyer, so I mean, I may be totally wrong. That's just what I have been told and what I have also heard in the past and has been kind of reaffirmed to me in the past through various discussions like this.
Right.
And also incident response that we've had to deal with before. I have had actually people come to me and basically say, hey, can you pull the data off this camera? And their first response, their first statement, once they say that is, did the person know they were even on camera? To which it has always been from, again, third-party corporate lawyers mostly. have come forward and said, no, it's not required to let them know in the state of West Virginia. Much like you can record a vocal phone call in the state of West Virginia, even if it's an interstate call, because this is a single party state and therefore the laws here would apply to that call.
I think one of the most, if not the most important thing for a community is that peace of mind for public safety.
And once again, at my ward, Ward 1, and and yours as well, Ward 4 at the Masonic Lodge, the public requested cameras again, once again.
Is council ready to take action? In support or rejection of the proposals?
I'll move to approve. How do you want that stated?
List each company and separate camera and network and total cost.
The quote from Advantage for the cameras for $76,354.57. I also move to approve Raven Rock proposal for the internet services for $48,140.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? We'll have voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen,
No.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Yes. Councilman Herb Curtis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you all for your time and your
Yeah, thank you.
opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, next we will move on to reports. Cemetery Board's next meeting, Monday, January 9th. Landmarks, Thursday, the 10th of November. Planning Commission's next meeting is Wednesday, November 9th at 4. And we do have an application for service on the Planning Commission from David Blake. That's in here.
We have an opening on that one. We do.
Did we also have Laura Anderson's as well? Laura Anderson. Okay.
You guys good with that?
Yeah, I guess I'll recommend that we approve David Blake. I think by charter, or not charter, by ordinance for the planning commission, I'm supposed to make a recommendation for approval. And so I met with Mr. Blake and expressed his willingness to be on the planning commission and his experience in different municipalities and such. And so I think we will welcome him to the planning commission best we can if you guys will make that appointment.
Thank you.
You like to make that motion?
Yes, I'll move to approve David Blake for the position on the Planning Commission.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Sure.
Do we have to state that that is a 3-year term to fill?
I think the more clarity we can give it, the better.
Okay,
For a 3-year term.
it's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
That would be 3-1. Motion carries. Board of Parks and Recreation, next meeting Friday, November the 18th. And we also have an application for that commission from Laura Anderson.
Just a little background on that one. We had By our current ordinance, we have 5 spots. We have currently 3 people on the board. The mayor just kind of serves at her pleasure and comes to the meetings and very involved. And so one of the, we had 4 members, one recently submitted their resignation. And so I think Laura will do an excellent job. She works with Try This West Virginia, and I'm making the recommendation to put her on the Parks Board.
What term is that? 3 years?
I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I would just
I know
for a
we're
regular
allowed.
term at this point.
Okay, for 1 term.
You like to make that motion?
Sure. I'll move to approve Laura Anderson for the open position on the Board of Parks and Recreation for 1 term.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next meeting of the Lewis County EDA is Wednesday, November 23rd at 5 PM. That's not right, is it? So, okay,
Yeah,
Just for that meeting.
yeah, we didn't post that last meeting, so we rescheduled.
yeah, there was a conflict.
And the courthouse is busy, so. Courthouse.
I
Thank
threw him
you.
out. I threw him out, Judy. I threw him out.
Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
I think those meetings are, he has 5 o'clock on the agenda. Yeah, it is at 5. From 5 to 6. You're welcome.
Okay. Board of Zoning Appeals, next meeting Tuesday, November the 8th. And we have an application for that as well from Charles Gant.
Yeah, Mr. Gant, he put his application in. He's I think a recent transplant. Recent's probably not fair to him. I think it's been multiple years he's been here now at this point. But he checked off multiple boxes. I sat down and met with him as well, and just felt that he had a good composure and background. He ran a homeowners association in Texas for many years, and so was very familiar with a lot of the ins and outs and dealing with that sort of legality. Just kind of an interesting factoid. I asked him how many homes were in his homeowners association. He goes, well, before they did the addition, before I resigned, there was 3,000 homes in the homeowners association. So it was bigger than the city of Weston. So I figured he could handle being on the Board of Zoning Appeals and navigate all of our zoning law and stuff.
He's the
So
gentleman who came to Randy's.
came to Randy's board meeting,
Okay.
correct? Yep, introduced himself. So I give my full throated endorsement for him to be on that board. Yeah, I think until you're off of it, honestly, if I don't.
Life.
Yeah.
He's a lifer.
Lifer, Supreme Court. Yeah, right. Yeah. A regular term, yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Code of Appeals Board, next meeting Thursday, November 17th at 6 PM. Region 7 Planning and Development, their next meeting is January 30th. Okay, and we'll move on to the Sanitary Board report.
Good evening. I'll just make mention of a couple things and kind of keep it short. You guys should have my report. I did talk with the Sinegro this evening, and there's a little bit of an update to that first line on the report. When I originally did the report, there were 275 dry tons that they had to remove, but there's actually 315 dry tons removed now as of this evening. So there's a bit more removed at this time, and they anticipate that within the next 3 weeks, they'll finish up there. And we will be able to vote on a change order for some additional tonnage to be removed at our next board meeting next Monday. The information will be able to be submitted to IJDC on December the 10th for phase 2. That particular project, PER will be finished and all the financials that need to accompany that. So that'll be able to meet that deadline on December 10th. Done at the plant, we did get the new building for the chlorine building. It has been set, concrete set, the building set, and they're just in the process of putting in the electric and the heat for that building. Other than that, I think everything is pretty routine. If you all have any questions, though, I'd be happy to answer those. Otherwise, our meeting is Monday at 4:30. Good. Good. Nope, no rats. Lots more room.
Is all the mail arriving at the building now?
No,
No.
no, but
That's
we are in the process of, we stopped the bleeding by putting everything on hold. I go pick that up, look through it, see what's ours. A lot of our stuff goes to Mountain State Waste. Mountain State Waste stuff comes to us. We're going to a PO box and figured out the forwarding for both entities, and it's better than it was. I'll put it
Okay.
like that.
Oh, good.
We're more than 50%. So
So if you're listening out there, please deliver your payments by hand for the
Yes.
time being.
well, call me and I'll come pick it up.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Dee?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Dee.
thanks.
Thank you.
I did go to Lewis County Commission meeting and give an update on both of those
Mhm.
projects. And they were happy to hear that. Pardon? No. That's what'll go to IJDC December 10th for their approval. There'll be 5 to 6 different ways to remove sludge, and we're waiting on their approval for that. And then get the funding for that, and we'll be well on our way. That's
Okay, finance department.
I have no idea what I'm gonna say.
Unacceptable. Other than Joe's doing a great job, and that he has started doing the payroll, and Nate he looks over at them before we push the send button, but Joe, for the biggest part, is doing it, and he done your packets tonight. And the packet from the audit, he found no surprising things, which was great for us. Tim Lopez came in back, and he went over the things that we need to work on. And most of them are on the front page of the of your packet there from the auditor. It's about the where we need to tell like how much all of our properties that we own and the buildings and how much they're worth. Joe's gonna need some more help with Sutherland Stonecker with that. But for the most part, Adam came and spent the day with him and helped go over a bunch of the questions that Joe had. So I think that we got a lot of that worked out. Another thing that I need to ask is we collected $3,750 for the vacant structure property, and it's in the general funds. And I need to ask if we can move it over to the proper funding, which would be the vacant registration account. Yes, please. And can I go on? Can you hear? How?
If you want to go ahead, and then we'll do that.
Okay. And for the municipal fees, from this time, October 31st last year, we had $250,864 collected. This year, we have $235,821, a difference of a little over $15,000. So
That we're down.
Yes,
Outstanding or somebody that's moving on?
that's that we have, that's just the difference in what I collected last year to this year. Just means that some people has not paid me yet.
You collected a lot of bad debt there last year to bring that total up, right?
We did, and we did do that, yes. So you got anything else you want to say?
The money going into a separate account, I don't think that's very discretionary. I think it has to be in a separate account.
Yeah, but I just need your.
You need authorization to do it.
Why don't you guys go ahead and do that, and then I'll make a few other comments. How's that sound?
I'll entertain a motion to transfer
$750.
$750 in vacant registration fees from the general fund checking to the vacant registration checking.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Yes. Councilman Herb Curtis.
Motion carries. Okay.
All right, just a few other comments on that, if that's okay, Susie, on finances. Stormwater, we're gonna come up with a tally from the previous year that we want to bring to you all for a transfer from the stormwater fund to the general fund. We provide them a balance of the general fund. I think we're doing pretty well right now. We're about ready to make these paving invoice payments, and we'll have a further discussion later this month on that. But those will take a good chunk out of us. We did receive our sales tax quarterly payment this past month. That came in at 162,000, and our first quarterly payment was 141. And so we were down 9 and we were up 12 from our projections. So I think we're back on track from a sales tax. Not a whole lot of wiggle room, but we're back on track there. Coal severance also came in. I think we were close to $6,000 in coal severance, which was $2,000 or $3,000 more than what we had projected when we budgeted. And that has to do with coal prices, right? And coal's up right now as Europe is trying to stock up their power plants for the winter. So I think financially, we're doing pretty well. Like Susie had mentioned, we're a little bit down on municipal fees. And I think that like Councilman Bowen said, a lot of that had to do with collections. Our budget is 282,000 is what we're projected to bring in. So we're only 50,000 off for the year. So I think we've got a good shot of meeting those projections and bringing those funds in, as long as Susie doesn't run off into the sunset too soon. So, sorry. Yeah, before she leaves for sure. I would just speak a little bit more to the Settle and Stoniker conversation, because I know it's been a point of interest at times. We did have those meetings. Joe has taken on a lot of those responsibilities and will continue to. So I'd say at this point, 75%, is that a fair estimate, Joe? Is that we've brought that in-house? Now, we said we're bringing it in-house, and I'm sure Joe can do it, but he hasn't done it yet. So we won't count our chickens before they get here. But that's where we left the last meeting, is that they were turning those things all over to us. They're going to come up with a proposal for ongoing support. And so, we've currently been operating on, the fumes of our last agreement with them and that pricing, but we're going to set that in stone in a future meeting here coming up soon to say, they're essentially placing them on retainer for the remainder of the fiscal year to provide advice and things of that nature, and maybe some support to Joe as we transition these things out. But I think that'll be a considerable cost savings for us moving forward. And I'm excited to do it. But I think that's all the other things I had to add. Anything else coming to your mind? Okay. You're welcome. I think it's going to be sooner than that. I think, by the first of the year, we're going to be in that kind of arrangement with them. There may be some, vestiges of things we need to clean up that they are privy to, right? That we'll call and ask for some help on, but I think most of their ongoing services will be brought in-house at that point.
Did you want to speak to the audit that we have?
Yeah, thought about it, then I said, nah, then I thought about it again, so maybe I should, and I'm glad you brought it up. And we're gonna put those on our website. I've been waiting on the PDF copy. We haven't got that yet, I don't think, but we're gonna put it on the website once we get that and allow people, the public. I've had that question often, hey, what's your audits like? And honestly, I've never paid much attention to them because we're so far behind, it didn't really matter to me. I think at this point, these are audits that were within your guys' term that have been completed. We had some findings that were, more procedural, I think, more than anything, no fraud allegations, nothing of that nature. The things that we need to work on as an administrative team, like segregation of duties. And that's one of the things we're diligently working on as a financial policy to say, this person's going to collect the money, this person's going to put it in the bank, this person's going to enter it into our books, and segregate those things out to make sure there's not the chance for, the same person doing the same tasks and making the adjustments so that fraud can occur. But other than that, I think, there's some other mentions in there of various things, but I shouldn't use the word trivial, but in the grand scheme of in my mind, they weren't things that really spoke to me that said, oh, we've got to correct that tomorrow. Even our own, Set on Stoniker, they've spoken to me about the asset register that we're talking about, the capital assets. That's something that we need to develop. And I think we can relatively easy with enough time. So I think from a staff standpoint, we're glad these things are over because it's tough going through the records of people who aren't here anymore and finding this information. I think and I'm not just saying this because I'm working here or the people I work with are sitting here, but I think logistically, you guys have been here a lot longer than I have. I think we're in a better place organizationally than we ever have. And not just the city of Weston organizationally, but, organization of records that we've ever been, where we can find the things we need to find and find backup documentation, which wasn't always there for us. At times, not to air too much dirty laundry here, but take an example of purchase cards. I didn't see that there was an abuse of purchase cards looking at the statements, but usually you have those statements and you say, I've got to have backup documentation with receipts and things of that nature. And I'm sure we've got them somewhere in some box, binder clipped together. But as far as me going back and checking that transaction from 3 years ago, I don't know where to look and I don't know how to find it. And I'm not going to do it at this point because it's just too painstaking. Currently now we've got those receipts scanned into our system. If we have that question, we can get on our server and bring up the image of the receipt, and it's been coded and approved by the department heads, and something that's very easy for us to find. So we're not perfect. It's not 99.9% under control, but we're a lot further than we've ever been, I think, as an organization, and that's credit to our staff. And so I keep harassing Susie saying we need to get these other audits done and get caught up. And I'm hoping that they'll be a lot less painful than these past ones because she does a tremendous job and she has to going through boxes. She's got the paper cuts on her fingers to prove it. So it's just tough work and it's frustrating work when you've done it right, but it hasn't been organized in a fashion that makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. So we're getting there, and I'm really appreciative. It was a team effort, and we got those things done, and look forward to future ones.
It is very tiring to go through all these boxes and and what I would have thought, okay, would be in this file. She might have thought, okay, no, it needs to be over here, and you just have to do everything. It's time consuming. So, but like you said, now we've got everything scanned, so it's so much easier to find, so.
You can just look under the shelf on the table in the corner and find those things that you need.
Are we to the end of where we contracted out for these audits that we need to do an RFP for the next year?
That's on our list. I don't know what the next steps, we were kind of involved in that state process where I don't know if we get subsidized or whatnot, but I'm at the point where I'm going to entertain the idea of engaging them proactively if we're like in a pecking order or something like that and seeing if we can get these things done and caught up. So we just need to make a call and talk to somebody. I don't know honestly how that, these last audits, these last audits, they sent us a letter saying, hey, you need to advertise for these. And so I don't want to wait for that letter. I just want to do it and be done with it. So that's where we're at. Yeah.
Well, for certain grants that we apply for, we need to be
Right.
current. Okay, street department. Reports in the packet. If anyone has any questions.
I do have a couple of things I'd like to add to that.
Sure.
About one, two, three, the fourth one down. Our guys are so excited about the street sweeper and the vac truck. We have the street sweeper out and running, and you guys can see all the marks it makes on the street and kind of cleans it up. So you know where we've been. The other thing is with the batter truck, I had Steve come in from the company out in Chicago, and he trained 3 of us on how to operate that vac truck. With that being said, we went down on Monroe Street, which is clear to the back of the end of the list there. And we went down and we opened up on the day he was here. We opened up a culvert that has been plugged for quite some time. And it just took us about an hour. And they are just so pleased to have something to work with that we can go out here and take care of these things. That's all I have. If y'all got any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Yeah.
As far as a routine schedule for the street sweeper. Right, but a routine schedule for the street sweeper, have you had any thoughts on that as far as like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or how they'll be running with street sweeper? Is that too soon or?
It's just a little bit too soon for that, Herb, right now, because first of all, we're working in colder weather right now. So I can't tell you that for sure. If it was nice warm weather where we didn't have to drain up, we're draining up every day. Okay.
Yeah.
We're winterizing it every day, and that does take time. With that being said, we'll probably come up with a schedule when it gets warmer. Right now, we're just trying to clean up some of the spots that hasn't been hit since what I think, Nate, been 6 months,
I got
or
you.
so.
Okay.
We're slowly working on that welcome kit. And that would really be nice to have that done for next year to include in.
A schedule? Okay.
Herb, they'll be in Ward 1 for a while.
Absolutely not.
By the way, I just have one gentleman that is running the street sweeper. So that way, right now that he knows what to drain up and how to take care of it. That way, if there's any problems, he knows what's going on. Okay.
I've had a lot of compliments on the street department. I've had a lot of compliments actually on every department, but people are noticing you out there and they're excited that the Christmas decorations are going up.
Yeah, we're going to give them 2. What is it? What did you tell me, Nate? Thursday or Friday, we're going to give them a parade plus a little bit of Christmas in the Veterans Day parade.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we just have to move on quickly,
Sure. Well, it's nice too. It's nice to
Yeah.
put them up in
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
weather.
Thank you, Mike.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
We'll move on to the police department. That report is also in your packet if you have questions.
This is a very nice report. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Say he is doing very well with all that's been put on him this past 2 weeks with phone calls.
That's
and people
great.
saying,
Sure.
"Very
And
well."
we
Thank
have
you.
this report is like the CAD report, right? And then we have a report besides that. So yes, thank you.
Okay, next fire department.
You guys have been busy.
Thank you for your report. Building code zoning report, which is also included. Questions about Marty's report? Thank you.
Thank
Looks
you.
like you've been busy too, Marty. Okay, next, the city attorney's report.
I just generally have a couple things. The final adoption of this or updated code. It's getting, I'm about a third of the way through it, and I think we could start kind of getting together at some point. I hate to say every 2 weeks, but it might have to be every 2 weeks to go through some amount of pages. I can't decide yet whether we need to go through 1 or 100 pages per time. I guess this is how much we can tolerate. So be on the lookout for that to start popping up as far as special meetings or work sessions or whatever we want to call it. Second, as far as our vacant structure ordinance goes, we had our first attempt at getting a administrative search warrant to get into a building to see what needed done to get that building to get in compliance with the vacant structure or to be secure for the police and firemen to get into if they need to. And the judge granted that, the municipal judge granted that administrative warrant. And so there's the state code gives various time limits. You got to give whoever the owner is, you got to give them notice, and then 5 days after they get notice, you can enter the premises. And so we're sitting here on day, well, it's not been 5 days since the guy's been notified. So we're waiting on this. He's out in Hawaii.
Where is this property?
210 North River.
Oh, okay.
What day would we have?
Thursday.
So his certified letter went out Friday morning.
To Hawaii. So
But we know it's viable address because we've sent him stuff to that house.
so in a broad philosophical sense, we're getting our feet wet as far as enforcing this ordinance, and this is just one baby step in the ladder of learning how to enforce this thing. And so that's promising to me that we can that we're doing this. So that's all I have.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Brian.
You're welcome.
Sure.
Brian deserves a lot of credit. He slammed John.
Did he?
The judge looked at it, took 5 minutes to read through it, said, "Yep, no problem." So,
Great.
That's all. for me.
Thank you.
Okay, city clerk, you also have that report in your packet for business licenses.
Thank you, Judy.
And city managers report.
I was working on a calendar for you all because I think we're going to be running into a lot of things we want to get done that we're going to run out of time for if we don't start thinking ahead, for lack of a better word. And I think I've got a duty to make sure we go down that path and can get as much accomplished as we can. So that's coming, and I'll email that out to you here shortly, and we can discuss that as an ongoing talking point as we move forward. A couple things that have jumped out. I mean, Brian mentioned the codification process. I mean, we could feasibly do nothing for the next 7 months, and and just work on that thing, I think, and that would be good for us and good for the city long term. And it's not practical in a sense, but there's a lot of work to be done there. And I really appreciate his work on there, what he's doing to further that. I'm kind of giving him a second set of eyes as we're working through this code. And I got 3 pages in, and I had a bunch of red ink on it already. One of the things that jumped out to me was I was in our charter section. And so we've got to appoint election officers here in the future very soon, I think, for our upcoming election. And then also by charter, council is to set the compensation for the next council before that election at some point. And I think we've discussed oftentimes about our meeting. Do we need to have 2 regularly scheduled meetings a month? And I think that conversation and ordinance to set that in stone should be done at the same time, because I think that's part of the compensation conversation. And we need to figure out, have that discussion at least, and decide which path you guys think is best for the next council. So those are 2 things that I think are going to be coming in the next month and 2 months as we get ready for this election season.
Would you hold our staff so and ask their opinion of the 2 meetings?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's kind of all council's priority, right? I think this council has been a council that wants to get things done and done quickly. And so in order to do that, oftentimes you have to have meetings.
Sure.
And there's been a lot of, I won't say unearthed, but there's a lot of state provisions that, a lot of things run through council, right? As much as we have a city manager form of government, a lot of things have to have council's approval. And so if you want a responsive, quick acting city administration, a lot of times you've got to have multiple council meetings, I think. So we'll address that. I think it's something, this is just speculating. We can discuss further later on, but maybe it's something where we don't have to have our entire staff at every meeting, right? Or any of the meetings. Maybe it's something that they're just there on an as needed basis to kind of take some of that load off of them. But we can discuss that down the line. But I think, we've discussed financials and how that'd be easier to have a set meeting later on in the month, discuss the previous month. We attended the auditor's training. I think that was always eye-opening, right? This past month, about processes and things of that nature that we need to get ironed out, as always. I met with the City Managers Association over in Buchanan this past with the Municipal League Conference that they were having their quarterly meeting or whatnot. That was very good, I felt. What's interesting, sitting, and I'll just leave you a little bit of tidbit from that meeting, City Managers, is the longer I'm here, the more I can identify with their struggles and their pains, and they're the same struggles and pains we have. And that makes me feel good in a sick way that, we're not that bad off, for lack of better words, that other municipalities who have a lot more resources, a lot bigger staffs are struggling to find resolution to certain problems or not getting as much accomplished. When I talked about things we've done, like, you've done all that. Like, yeah, we've done that. Yeah. And so that's a good feeling for us as a staff. And like I said, it's just, I really appreciate the people that I work with every day. It's an adventure every day. You come in today saying I was going to sit down and do my calendar for you all and work on a priority list of things. And we advertised that our office was closed. It didn't stop anybody. We advertised, and the people continued to come in. The phone calls still came in, and as a staff, we reacted appropriately, I felt, and got a lot of things accomplished for the public. And that sometimes takes away from the backlog of items that we need to get done administratively. But that's why we're here for. And so, like I said, I just really appreciate our team. We could probably use double of all of them, and everybody would have a decent full-time job. But this staff does not complain. They come to work every day and they do their jobs and do more than what is required of them, I feel. And I can't say enough how much I appreciate that as their leader. That's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve all of the department reports, including the presentation of the 2019 and 2020 audit. It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next moving on to the tree board ordinance.
I think you all probably saw the email I received today from Mr. Weaver He's putting out a letter to the editor in this week's Democrat to solicit further interest in the tree board. He's attended a series of meetings in the past month with Elkins Tree Board and has some ideas there. And I think he recognizes that if the interest cannot be garnered from this editorial to have a tree board, then I think that this council is given fair enough amount of time and we'll move forward. And so I continue to encourage him to hopefully find some people that want to be on a tree board if that's what the people wish. And so at this point, I'm going to recommend to table it one more time and see what this next month drums up from an interest standpoint. Okay.
There a second? It's been moved in second to table ordinance 2022-11. Discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers,
Yes.
Councilman Randy Bowen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Down, yeah, Councilman Herb Burton.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, non-conforming billboards.
I can not hit myself in the head with the microphone. We all know that there's billboards out by the oil spot and out by ice cream barn. And sometime in the past, those billboards were to some degree allowed to stay, and then allegedly on a certain date, they were going to have to come down or be modified or something to some degree. And Jennifer Wine, I can't remember if she owns all three of those billboards or all the billboards or whatnot, but she is inquiring as to what the status of her billboards coming down or needing modified are. And I've been investigating, and it appears that Weston sometime in 2020 tried to amend the zoning ordinance to kind of settle a legal dispute between Lamar Advertising and Weston. And there was some kind of amendments to the zoning ordinance that were either made or proposed to Lamar, and Lamar agreed with those and settled the case with Weston. In the settlement, that there was no specific language as to what the amendments were. And so I tried to go back through the minutes to see what was passed, and the minutes don't indicate a particular, to my eye, a specific heading, I guess, if you will, that, hey, these are the amendments to the zoning ordinance or whatnot. And then secondarily to that, in the ordinance book, there's nothing to open up to with what appears to be an amendment that reflects a formal ordinance looking type amendment. And so I think there was one reading of it in May of 2020, and I never did find a second reading of it in the minutes. Now, why is that important? Well, this issue deals with zoning, and state code makes a zoning issue have to be read twice. Now, we haven't, as best I can tell, we haven't done anything to enforce these amendments, I guess, against the billboard. So I don't think we're in any kind of trouble as far as enforcing something that's not quote unquote on the books. I just think we need to try to rectify or try to remedy this situation before we tell somebody that they have to put their billboard down or not. And so that's generally that's the general situation as it stands right now.
Well, it has action requested on there. Are you recommending that we just wait until you come to us with a recommendation?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think there's two avenues to go about this. You read it a second time, for lack of a better way to say it, and you can do that. I don't think you can do it today. I think just to be super safe, I think you have somebody or have the planning commission look at this and say, this is what we intended to amend, and this is what council read back in May of 2020, and read it for the second time. So that would be the safest way to go about doing this, in my opinion. Then otherwise, I mean, I think we're sitting here without an ordinance. And until that's changed, those billboards stay up. It can be. I think we could put it on there. Or have
Okay, can
Yeah,
I
sure,
ask a question?
sure.
So does the planning commission need to see this, or can we just do the second reading and go with it?
I struggle with that every day because I'm going to sound mean to us. How do we know that what you're reading was what the planning commission approved of, or what you all read back in May of 2020? I can't point to anything that's the official one. So there was Mr. Poe, who was the husband of Molly Poe, who helped. He finally sent some information to me today, and he said he's indicated these were the amendments that were made, and it looks a little more formal than what these proposed underlined amendments were. So since it's zoning and it's a hot button issue, and anything that looks like you're doing it under the cover of night or behind closed doors or whatnot, it just kind of opens things up to a lot more cane being raised than not.
But weren't we complying with legal action at the time with this ordinance?
I would say you're complying with a settlement with Lamar. The court, the federal court didn't require any particular thing to be submitted to it, and it didn't make any particular ruling. It just, the federal court just indicated that, yep, the party settled and it's no longer in our court anymore. So there's no particular court order that says, hey, you need to amend your ordinance this particular way or else.
So the next time we discuss this, we're gonna have our plan and get it done, right?
I think we could do that,
Okay,
yes.
So, all right.
Brian, is there an existing ordinance for billboards that's set in stone, that's been read twice? It's actually
In the zoning ordinance, you look in the definitions, and there's things called freestanding signs. And by my reading, it looks like a billboard. A freestanding sign would be a billboard, and billboards are allowed in Weston. They have to be a certain size though. And they're allowed in general commercial areas. Let me narrow that down a little bit, but they have to be a certain size though. And the billboards at issue are bigger than what those rules are in the zoning ordinance. And so I'm going to use the phrase, I wasn't around when this happened. I'm using the phrase, these bigger signs got grandfathered in for some period of time. And that period of time ends December 30, or well, I guess it ends January 1st, 2023. So once that grandfather time is over, those billboards have to now conform to what's in the zoning ordinance.
I've never heard of an ending point for grandfathering. I mean, you would know better than I do. I'm just saying, I've never heard that.
Doesn't come from zoning board, right? It comes from.
That came from the amendment that council, the settlement caused that amendment to be done.
I was thinking you're expressing a legal term as far as an endpoint for a grandfather.
Oh, no.
I've never heard that.
No, this endpoint, I guess, was some kind of agreement between Lamar and Weston, is that this is how, or this is a portion of how we're going to settle this issue.
Can I add something, Brian? Sure. On the billboards in question, it's not just the size, which is mainly their height, but the one in front of the wool spot is a tri-sided sign that rotates. That's specifically spelled out, and their proximity to the road. No point of that sign is supposed to be within 25 feet of the road, and they're both probably right at that point, maybe a little less. So there's a couple of considerations to take into fact.
And I mean, in another option, I think if you want to grandfather them in for eternity, you can grandfather them in for eternity with a I don't know if an amendment to that zoning ordinance would be the right term, but some kind of acknowledgement that, hey, these were in existence before. we're gonna keep them that way or something to that effect.
Well, I think they could also be that if something happens, airplane flies into them or whatever, okay, now you can't replace it.
Yeah, once they stop being their size or their use, they can't be used as a non-conforming billboard anymore. No, and if now, sorry, should I say that again? Hold on.
Why don't we just have the second reading?
I mean, I guess you could have a second reading, but I struggle to find what was read the first time. Yeah, no. I could in a perfect world, I would see what was read and somebody saying, or somebody writing down, this was read May the 4th, 2020. That would be a good indication that that was what was read the first time. And then one day or 1 week or 2 weeks or a year later, 2 years later, the second reading would be of that piece of paper that already has an indication that it's been read once. And I don't have that first paper with any indication it's been read once.
All right, since we can't do anything definite, I'm gonna move to table this
Okay. And
because we obviously don't have anything to ordinance or anything to do or a motion to make with it, all right?
Direction council about which.
I mean, yeah,
You can't, so I'm trying to understand, you can't find the ordinance that was read the first time.
right, I can find what I would call copies of it or alleged copies of it. But there's nothing, date, no signature, no anything on that.
That's probably.
I would suspect what Mr. Poe sent is what you all passed.
Yes.
But with it being zoning and stuff, it's just when you try to, I'll use this phrase loosely, when you try to end run the planning commission and not get their advice or try to make it seem like something different is passed the second time than the first time, it just opens up a lot of can of worms.
Take what you got to the planning commission, and if they are in agreement with that, you bring it back to council at the next meeting and
With a course of action.
Sure. Okay.
and we do have a motion to table.
But doesn't that ordinance make the billboard obsolete in 2023?
I think now that we have competent administrative processes and competent people in place, that we should readdress the situation and fix it now from beginning to end, if that's possible.
And I think it is possible. It can, I don't think it can happen in 1 week, and I don't think it can happen in 2 weeks. It's going to take a month probably.
Let's fix it right.
We can fix it.
If we say that ordinance, we don't have any evidence that ordinance was passed appropriately. So it's not an ordinance in theory. What negative effect does that have for us? Because the billboard at that point can stay, right?
I mean, it doesn't. It's still a non-conforming billboard. I mean, it's a non-conforming billboard. That's right.
And we're gonna have to continue this conversation later. I appreciate it. but We do have a motion on the floor to table at this meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we have Mark Morris incident.
All right, Mr. Morris, popped the tire when we were milling the roads, or he claimed as much. He came in and filled out a claim or a complaint with Judy. Judy recorded that. I wasn't sure how we're supposed to handle this stuff because in the past usually it's been a sanitary manhole that's caused the incident, and I've kicked the buck to D. In this incident, I couldn't. So I had to figure out a way forward. And as I was reading through our code, there's a section in there that says all claims against the city are to be brought before the council. And so that's what I'm doing at this point, I guess, is to say, this is, in my opinion, I think talking to Brian, this is a claim against the city for damage to this person's car. And I think the final number, I've got my packet all mixed up. Do you have that in front of you?
No, there's a separate invoice number.
Yeah. Yeah, he had all 4 tires replaced, and then after the incident, he had one pop or something like that. So he was providing both receipts for his 4 just to prove that he had new tires, and then that he had the one that was an issue, and it looks like it's 175.86 from that invoice on 8/25/2022. And so yeah. I think it was court was what he claimed.
I have it here. 6th Street
Okay.
and Court
Yeah.
Avenue at the second stop sign to go out of town, he said.
6th and Court, the intersection.
What's your recommendation?
I mean, from resolving claims, I say pay it and let's move on with our life. I mean, we
Yep.
can't, it's not underneath our insurance deductible, but I think it sets a scary precedent to do something like that.
I'd like to speak to this.
Sure.
These receipts, they might have come off the ticket book from the Redhead station. It was once located in City Hall parking lot. When gas was 33 cents a gallon. Okay, these receipts come from that era, I believe. If you'll look at the number on the receipts, there's 11 days between them, but there's over 100,000 difference in the receipt number. I find something to be a muck.
And
Does that not look like the Redhead receipt book when you bought gas for 33 cents, Mike?
Yeah.
33.9.
And they're in reverse, right?
There's 100,000 difference on the receipts and there's 11 days. I don't know. They're kind of different, kind of the same. I don't know. I'm skeptical. I got to vote. We'll go on. I make a motion to pay the 175.86.
Can I add a condition to that after I confirm whether these are legitimate or not, and I'll ask Brown Service Station how they can just explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, I guess with the condition of following up.
Yeah.
If you'll feel better about it.
Where is Belva?
It's in West Virginia somewhere. I have no idea.
I've never heard of it. It looks to be a legitimate city.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
It's been moved in second.
North of Gully Bridge. It's a long ways to get your tires fixed, huh?
Yes.
No.
Councilwoman Debbie, yes. Councilman Turkey.
No.
Oh, boy.
So we have 2 for, 2 against, and I'll vote no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, under new business, Marty Lewis flood management program training.
Before Marty jumps into this, are you under a time constraint, Mayor?
Time
Yeah,
constraint.
you were kind of speeding us along earlier. I didn't know if you were trying to.
Well, I know that the employees have put in a full day and I'm just trying to cut down on unnecessary.
Okay, well, I just didn't know. Marty had volunteered to table his earlier if you needed time. Okay. Okay, we'll put the speed on it. All right. Thank you. Understood.
I'm just trying to be respectful
Yeah,
of
understood.
your guys' time.
Was that the yay?
Yeah, it's a yeah. I tried, Marty.
I'm not a great orator or any of that stuff, so. Yeah. So I'll try and make this as painless as possible. A week ago, I went to Moundsville for the week and because we need to have a floodplain manager, by our floodplain ordinance that you have adopted in the past. And a good deal of it has to do with insurance. The National Floodplain Insurance Program is a federal program that enables property owners to obtain flood insurance to help protect them against losses. It's a three-legged stool kind of deal. The first leg of that is identifying the risk, which is mapping. And in 1968, they passed a federal law for floodplain. It really didn't get any teeth until about 1975. And you've probably seen these floodplain insurance maps. These are the crude rudimentary maps that were in existence until just recently, that show rough floodplain boundaries. A lot of it based on historical data. We had a flood, somebody went out and they marked on the side of a building, here's how high it was. And then they use those elevations for surrounding properties. A lot of these used topographical maps too, which had about 20-foot increments. So that's a little more accurate you were. So if you had a steep lot like this, you might be actually where it never flooded in the past, but because it was within that 20-foot increment, you were buying flood insurance based on another point in that lot. Technology's come a long way. Now they're up to using LiDAR, which is a radar that can see through foliage, and they produce maps like you have in your hands. Much more accurate. They're accurate down to 6 inches instead of 20 feet. And the LiDAR even has capabilities of penetrating the ground and can tell you where ground was disturbed hundreds of years ago. So it's incredible technology. And now it gives us much more accurate maps. And these GIS maps show your base flood elevations and all that. The second part of the stool is then managing the risk, which is mitigation, protection against it, preparedness plans and things like that. Our preparedness plan at the city level is also tied in with the county, which is tied in with Region 7 planning. And I contacted Region 7 planning and I asked them to let me be a part of their program when it comes to their floodplain mitigation, because that's critically important to us. And then the third leg of the stool is actually providing the insurance. With this newer technology, it allowed some people, their property to be out of floodplains that were in it before. Some people were now included that may not have been before, but it's giving, instead of just saying, okay, this entire street or this entire area of town is going to pay insurance based on this. Now each individual property can be assessed properly and assess the risk and get proper insurance and coverage. Our role as a city, as a community, we had to, along with adopting our floodplain ordinances, which I think the last time you updated it was 2010, if I remember right, May of 2020, I believe, if I remember it. But we've adopted those, we update those occasionally. And you've adopted these maps as they come out from FEMA as well. We have to, and one of my main jobs, of course, we have to enforce our building on our zoning codes to maintain our rating as community standards. As a state, and then also all the way down to our community, we've adopted what they call a 2-foot freeboard, which means FEMA has declared, okay, here's your base flood elevation in this area. We're saying if anything's built in that area, it has to be a minimum of 2 feet above that as added protection, added insurance. And we have to enforce that. We allow somebody to go in there and they build underneath that. We risk having our opportunity as a community for flood insurance from the federal government pulled. And currently, the city of Weston has between $5 and $6 million worth of policies just through the federal government flood insurance. That says nothing about private flood insurance like through State Farm or Nationwide or any of those companies. So there's a lot at risk if we don't follow the rules and we don't enforce the rules. And the other downside to that, if we don't enforce the rules and we don't keep our community rating standards, if we do have a disaster, we have an event, a declared event, we lose all rights to any kind of federal disaster relief or anything like that. FEMA just kind of thumbs their nose and says, nope, you didn't follow the rules to this point. You're not getting any help now. And that's not just flood. That could be, a tornado hits the town, any kind of declared event like that FEMA would step in and help. They're not going to help you. They're not going to help you with support. They're not going to help you with money. So our overall goal with this, as I learned, and I'm continuing to learn, is that we have to do this for the protection and the safety of our citizens in our town. And as a follow-up to this, I will be getting a certification test probably in March, they said. So we went through our 783 page packet in 4 days and crammed. So hope, next thing is I gotta remember all that come March, and hopefully I'll walk away with the certification.
Well, thank you very much.
There's different layers in there. The blue on that, they used to call that the 100-year floodplain. Now they call it a 1% floodplain, just different terminology for the same thing. The tan areas are what would have been the 500-year before. Now they call it 2.2%. We used to have old zone numbers that there's letters and numbers for different zones. There used to be some that were out. Yeah, X was out. Now nothing's out, because even say you have torrential rains and you have a mudslide, that can be considered a flood. So nobody's out, but X is your lowest risk. There's approximate zones. There's also zones like an AO or an AH, which are for ponding areas from 1 to 3 feet, or sheet areas like where it washes across a road 1 to 3 feet. Well, no, if you're in an X zone, you don't have to purchase, if you're a federally backed loan. If you're not a federally backed loan, so you walk into a Citizens Bank over here and you take out a mortgage, and it's not, well, they're FDIC, so they're just a private entity out there, and they loan you money for your house. You're not required then. But if you have anything that's federally backed, federally insured, and you're in an A or an AE flood zone, you're going to have to have insurance, or they call a note on you. So you can see a good portion of our town, following all the waterways, are in flood zones. There's also situations if someone has a house and they're going to do improvements on it, major improvements to it. If those improvements are over 50% of the current market value of the house before they start, they have to bring the whole house into compliance. So they may have been built in 1945, and they're currently below the flood level, below the flood elevation and our freeboard requirement. Now they're going to put a big addition on this house and double the value of it. They're going to have to jack that whole house up to get it out of the flood. Or if there's substantial damage, 50% of the market value, an airplane flies into their house and damages more than 50% of the market value. Again, that whole house now has to come into compliance. And we can't just say, well, that's all right, it's been that way forever. Because we don't want to risk losing our status, our community rating status. We can't lose it. It's a duty to the citizens. You're right. You're right, it is. But when it's handed down to us from FEMA and say we did have a major flood like 85, we probably couldn't recover if we didn't have some kind of FEMA funding to come down and help us out. I tried to keep it short.
You did.
Thank you.
Very informative. Thank you, Marty.
Sure.
Okay, next, REAP audit certification form.
Simply, we're asking you guys to give us approval to sign this certification form, and it's my understanding that this acknowledges that we would be responsible for a single line audit since the REAP program is using federal dollars. And that. Yeah, we've got a choice, but that same old requirement for if we go over $750,000 of federal dollars expended in a fiscal year or calendar year, or whatever that requirement is, then we'll be required to have that audit. So we're just acknowledging that we know that requirement and asking for your guys' approval to sign that form, that we recognize that.
Is there a motion to acknowledge the REAP audit certification form requirement? Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have an application for the Veterans Parade on November the 11th. And I believe that it has all of the signatures there. So it's at this point, it's a formality unless anyone has questions or issues.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and second to approve the request for the Veterans Parade application permit. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, fire truck and street department equipment listing on Gov Deals.
I'm gonna have Mike read off his list here in a second, but what I'd like to do is from the auditor's training, we were told, advised, reminded that any property with a value over $1,000 has to have a public auction in order to get rid of it. And I asked the very specific question, does that mean sealed bid? And they said, no, a public auction. And so I think that either we hire an auctioneer to sell this equipment and hope people show up to the auction, or we go with a platform like Gov Deals and list it for publicly available auction to sell. From my cursory reading of Gov Deals, there's different thresholds of, depending on what our value of our equipment is. None of our equipment is very valuable that we're going to list, and most of us not in working order. So I feel that listing it on there is the best way to cast the widest net to hopefully have someone that will want to buy this piece of equipment. We'll advertise it in the Democrat to let people know that's where they can go purchase it. What I'm looking to do is elect the option where we don't pay any portion of the premium and just let the buyers pay the 12% of whatever their bid is as a buyer's premium to get rid of the equipment. So the first piece of equipment, which was in your packet, is that 1985 fire engine that blew up recently and the engine seized. And so we'd like to get that piece of equipment out here as soon as possible. Then Mike, you've got a couple other pieces of equipment. I'll let you read your list.
Yeah, I have an international tractor and it's a small, like a cub tractor that you mow grass with. We have a case backhoe. We have a paving machine, an old roller that we replaced it with a new one. And we have a power generator over there that does not run. And we have a couple sump pumps also that doesn't run, that we'd just like to get rid of that stuff.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to allow the posting of the equipment aforementioned on govdeals.com. I'm sorry. It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next, approval to use GoPay for credit card payments. You also have a sheet in your packet that describes that.
Yeah, Joe prepared that for you to kind of give you a quick rundown. Essentially the boil it down, we were required by the state by, I think, March of 2023 to offer an online payment option for folks to be able to pay their fees or payments due to the city of Weston. Currently, we offer credit card payments via the phone that people can call in and use our QuickBooks add-on and pay with their credit card. And so we've quickly got to make a decision on which direction we want to go for receiving these online payments. We've sat down and kind of talked a couple different things. And Huntington Bank sat down with us, our current banking provider, and gave us a couple of their options. And I think through those conversations that this GoPay option makes the most sense. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understood it is that this will work in conjunction with the West Virginia Treasury's office. They'll collect that money and disperse it, I think, daily to our general fund for those payments collected. And so the biggest drawback that I saw in this program is that somebody's going to have to reconcile that stuff quite often to keep up with it. But we feel like we've got that ability in-house. They'll provide us a report, things of that nature. And Joe will never get to go home again after we implement this. So that's, our first volley, I guess. If you guys have a better desire for us, but we felt this had the least amount of transaction fees, was the easiest method for us to kind of make quick accounting of what was happening. And I feel this is the best way for us to move forward as an entity and meet that requirement. Joe, do you want to speak to that a little bit? I can't remember all the ins and outs of the Huntington's proposal.
The benefit of West Virginia GoPay by the state president's office is that the state president's office then sort of a bonus is going to operate the website for us. So they're going to create a web page that says, well, the city Weston, they didn't tax, whatever. You choose if you want to pay for the information, we get the money. So they operate that website for us. And then we also get the benefit that can leverage on that. So that's why you see right now we're paying like 3.6%. And the West Virginia GoPay option, citizens 2.65%. And so for comparison, right now, if you come to the courthouse and buy something, that card will pay 4% with a minimum of about $50. So ours is going to be 2.85%. So the difference is like if you come to the courthouse, you pay $50. You'll pay about $50. If you come to the city, pay a $15 business fee, you pay 40%. So it's a much smaller fee. And then the other big change is happening right now is that right now we, the city, covers the cost of all credit card transactions in the city because that's sort of how QuickBooks is set up. There's no easy way to do that to the customer. You put the invoice in for additional fees. And so right now we're using 3.5%, and in the West Virginia model, we have 2.65%.
So that's $3,000 a year approximately in cost that the city is now eating.
How much?
3,000. So you'll be saving that by going to the recommended managed
go.
service system.
Pays for the increase in the firewall system.
Pardon?
Oh, I was just mumbling. I said it pays for our increase in our firewall system.
It does. I'll entertain a motion if you don't have any more questions.
To use the GoPay for credit card payments. For the city of Weston.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? We'll have voting by roll call.
Councilman Sherry.
Aye.
Councilman Randy Bowen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump, yes. Councilman Hurst.
Motion carries. Reports of city council, Ward 1.
First of all, once again, I'd like to thank all of our city staff for all of the improvements that we can all see around town. And from the paving, and the street sweeper and the jet truck to how smoothly the office runs and our police and fire. We certainly appreciate you. And Marty, thanks for attending that conference and sharing your information. I also wanted to note that we have we've been working on downtown, if you haven't noticed, and transitioning from fall to our winter scene, and we could use more. What we use is old Christmas trees because of the length of time that we have them out. The real pine just doesn't hold up. And we do have access to holly, so we can use some holly, but we are sending out the need for additional old Christmas trees so we can take them apart and use them for flower boxes. We're going to need several more of those. Also, I wanted to send out an ask to the public for additional help with the skating rink. We do have a schedule. If you want to drop off trees, they can do that at the city building during business hours. If you want to help with the rink, contact me and I'll take care of your scheduling for you. And once again, I want to thank the volunteers that help to beautify downtown Weston. Appreciate them. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Ward 2.
With the very large array of topics that we've discussed and the degree that we've handled them, I don't feel that I could offer anything more from my Ward 2 constituents. So I yield my time to Ward 3.
Ward 3 would just like to say just how nice the roads look, all that beautiful black paving out there.
I know.
I couldn't go by without saying about paving. But I would like to invite and encourage everybody to come out to the Christmas parade. That will be downtown on November 25th at 6:00 p.m. And if you would like to have a float or an organization, to please contact the city building for that. Along those lines, I'd also like to plug in for the Miracle on Main Street, which I think is going to be huge this year, right? We have 56, there's 56 vendors. Yeah, so a real big community event. And of course, the city will be providing the rink as well. So a lot of things going into the holiday season and ready to transition into the holidays.
Joseph, yeah.
And I'd just like to say thank you as well, as city manager mentioned earlier, as far as everything that's been going on and the accomplishments and strides made for the city of Weston. There's more going on now than it's went on in years past. And that's due to all the hard work. A lot of people is not prepared or they're not willing to do all the work it takes to move forward or to have change or to make things better. And we have a city staff and council and all that's willing to do that now. And it's starting to show after it's taken us a couple of years of getting started into it, with working behind the scenes. It's definitely showing. And as I'm out and about and all the people I've talked to, I've heard a lot of compliments over the last couple of months about just the huge changes made in the last few months, and people starting to recognize those. And as you say, a lot of work's done behind the scenes that people doesn't realize or see. So I definitely thank each and every one of you for that. I know you're all working hard. And not only myself, but we all appreciate that as a group. And as a team,
Definitely.
as a whole. And with that, I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that. Don't forget.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.